You are listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after productivity coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives entrepreneurs the straight talk on personal productivity. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today is episode 170. Working hard but not building wealth? You need to hear this with Hilary Hendershott. If you're a business owner who wants to improve your time management and elevate your productivity so you can maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. I'm really excited to bring this episode to you because you're going to meet my dear friend and our guest, Hilary Hendershott. Hilary is the founder of Hendershott Wealth Management, a leading financial advisory firm for women, where her mission is to motivate women and their loved ones to be financially empowered. Hilary hosts Profit Boss Radio, a weekly podcast where Hilary and her guests offer inspiration and actionable advice to support women in their financial journey. She's also a TEDx speaker and has been featured in Wall Street Journal, NBC, ABC, Fox, Daily Worth, Forbes, and Investopedia. Hilary was recognized as one of the top 100 financial advisors in 2018 and 2019 by Investopedia, and top 40 under 40 entrepreneur in Silicon Valley in 2014. With more than 30 television appearances, she's considered the go-to personal finance expert in Silicon Valley for NBC, where they have nicknamed her the investor's voice of reason. Hilary has an MBA from Santa Clara University and is a certified financial planner. Before we jump into today's episode, I have a couple of announcements for you. This episode of Productivity Straight Talk is being brought to you by my signature Time Management Made Simple program. To learn more and to gain instant access to this program, head on over to amberdelagarza.com/time. I also want to make sure that you are aware of a free event coming up very soon, and that is with my friend Carol Cox of Speaking Your Brand. She is hosting a live virtual event for women entrepreneurs on October 15th. This is a unique event that Carol and her team are putting together. It's a mix of TED-style 10-minute talks by diverse women speakers who will be sharing their big ideas and powerful personal stories about how they've used their voice to change the status quo. There will also be panel discussions so you can learn how to craft your own stellar speech and build a thought leadership platform. If you enjoy speaking, want to get better at speaking, or just want to hear high-quality speeches, then I would love for you to join me over at speakingyourbrand.com/summit to claim your free ticket. And now, let's get to the straight talk. Hey, Hilary, welcome to Productivity Straight Talk.
I am so stoked to be here, Amber.
Oh my goodness. So I have like a little confession for my audience to say that I have been keeping you as my very own secret. I found out that I had not had you on as a guest, and you are just so much part of my life. I thought, of course, she's been a guest so far. So for those of you that are tuning in, Hilary is a dear friend of mine, where we actually met at a podcast conference 3 years ago. Yeah. Okay. I have to tell them what this is. Okay. Then she became my financial advisor, which we are going to talk all about, and you're going to hear about Hilary. But I got to tell you, I was sitting in a breakout session, and there was this lady behind in the back of the room with her laptop on her lap, and she raised her hand and asked a question. And I remember looking over my shoulder, hearing her as Hilary, speak. And the thought that came through my mind was, I want to meet her. And I'm looking at her, and I'm like, she could be like my sister. Like if I had a sister, I think that's what my sister would look like. So ballsy enough, I got up, I went and introduced myself to her at the end of the breakout session. And as they say, the rest is history. I think we had our first date at the bar at the hotel, and then we stayed in contact. And since then, our families have vacationed a couple times together.
Yeah, actually, we went on vacation before I became your financial advisor, just to be technical.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. Okay, so yep, we were friends long before financial advisor, and we just came back from a trip together in Lake Tahoe. And I had every intention of interviewing her then, but we were having too much fun and too chilled. We thought we better schedule this like for a real interview. So Hilary, I wanted to give the context into, of course, who you are to me, but can you share with us a bit about yourself that we may have not heard in the official bio?
Gosh, let's see. So I've been in the financial planning industry this is my 20th year. So I started in 1999. I grew up, I got trained as formally as a comprehensive financial advisor. And here I was, this 24-year-old woman in an industry of basically old white men. And there's nothing wrong with being an old white man. I'm actually married to one. So it's not like a problem. The point is that I was totally outnumbered and sort of socially dominated just because I didn't have the confidence, right? So I looked around me and I thought, these people are so credentialed and credible. Like, why would anyone ever work with me? Because as a financial advisor, you have to build your own practice. And one day it was sort of one of those moments, I don't think I was actually in the shower, but this thought got downloaded to me. And it was one of those thoughts where once you have it, you kind of can't go back from it. And what the thought was this: Hilary, whenever you call, because I was a Kaiser member at that time. Kaiser Permanente is an HMO, if you're not familiar with it, but it's where you get your healthcare. And when you call up, you may not have a specialist that you're assigned to. So I have a specific GP, but if you get a referral, you might go see one of 5 or 6 doctors. And I would always say, I want to see a female doctor. Like, I would like to be seen by a female. That was my preference based on my experience. And that was just a practice I had in my life. And this download occurred to me and the download said, Hilary, you always want to see a female doctor. There are people out there who want to see a female financial advisor. And it was like, whoa, and as soon as I thought it, I knew it was true. And I hadn't, of course, been seeing those people because I was being mentored into the business by my father. So he was the principal in the firm I got trained in. And it was almost like that realization just completely shifted my energy. I would say my practice and my income doubled, if not tripled, in the next 6 to 9 months. And of course, it was all women that were hiring me. And it was just it was one of those things that sort of broke the gates open. And I simultaneously joined my first all-female mastermind. And I sort of learned what it is to be a woman who's supporting women, supported by women. And I thought, okay, this is my home. This is where I'm going to be. And so I went out on my own to create my own practice and brand. And, we say we're by women, for women. However, I would say about half my clients are actually men. Because, first of all, there are lots of empowered men who want to work with women too, but also most women want to be married. They want to have a financial partner or a life partner, right? So we're not exclusive. It's not about rejecting men at all. It's about providing an environment that's non-traditional. So, what we hear from women is that they're just really not interested in going to see their financial advisor because they get patted on the shoulder or talked down to or talked over, or maybe the guy doesn't even make eye contact with her, right? This is the complaint that we hear. And so we just really lean into the feminine traits while we provide completely rigorous, and technical financial planning. We administer that planning with love and patience and empathy and fun, right? So we have a great time. And so I'm really proud of what we've built. And then I think kind of the lessons that we're going to talk about with your audience today lean on my learnings about money psychology, which were hard won by me. I pretty much ruined myself financially at the beginning of my career. So I was a financial planner with a degree in economics, and I had something like $420,000 in debt. It was nuts. It was nuts.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So and we can talk about that more if you want to dig into that. I know I've talked a lot, but I essentially became an expert on money psychology. And so that really is what gives me my soft spot for people with money, because I really empathize with where people are at with their business. Because when you run a business, my goodness, you have so much on your plate. You have to design and produce profitable revenue streams, all the while pulling money out of your business and putting it in personal accounts and building your net worth. It's like a lot. And so one of the things I do with my learnings in money psychology is talk to business owners about how to really, really have business be the golden road to an amazing lifestyle.
Yes. And so selfishly, we were having a drink out on the patio, and I was talking to you just last week about why do you think that there is such a block to money when intuitively as business owners, we know we're in business to make money. Like we know that a healthy, successful business is a profitable business, but yet we also know that money kind of makes the world go round. And then we can also put our head in the sand and be like, I don't know. So because I don't know, I'm not going to do anything because I'm afraid I'm going to make the wrong move. Why do you think that there's such a disconnect between making sound decisions in our business with money, knowing we need to be profitable, and then totally disregarding it in our personal life, like personal wealth?
I think that it's understandable. I think that business owners get very focused, and as a CEO, you know that your focus is one of your most valuable sort of energies. What are my priorities this week? How am I going to earn profit? How am I going to handle that next prospective client? What about this affiliate partnership? Your focus is on the making of the money, not the extracting it and retaining it, right? And being empowered about money isn't something that's trained. We don't learn about it in school. Many of us have parents who were totally financially disempowered. I mean, my parents weren't financially disempowered, but they didn't sort of sit me down and teach me how to be empowered about it. I left my mother's home where, when I went to college, and she was a great saver. She didn't like share that with me. And the first thing I did was get a credit card that I maxed out. So, I didn't have that knowledge. I guess it's intuitive to some people and not to others. And I think as business owners, we talk a lot about the vanity metric, the revenue. So I want a 7-figure business. Okay, but if you're earning 7 figures in your business and you're paying yourself $40,000 a year, what's the point, right?
Right.
So it's that profit is your sanity, right? But the revenue number is obviously going to be bigger, and we like to impress people with our revenue numbers. So we rarely really focus on profit. And then even when there is profit, we get scared to take it out of the business because we relate to the profit like it's fodder for the next promotion or pitch or fire that we're building in our business, right? Like we say, oh no, I'm not gonna pay myself. I'm just gonna build the business. I'm gonna invest it back in the business. Okay, but for what end? To what point? You gotta pay yourself, or you're a slave to your business. Your business eats 2 things: 1, money; 2, time. And you get to pick the ratio, but your business is hungry.
Okay, let's pause there and go deeper. What would you tell the business owner that's saying next year, like maybe next year? Like I know I'm kind of a startup, year 5, not right. Like you just kind of like you're still like grinding it out, and you're thinking it's kind of selfish. Like there's a lot of thoughts, but one that I've heard is like, I don't deserve to pull money out until my business reaches some sort of bench level. And until then, I'm just going to like keep pouring back in. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, I have 2 responses, and I could have said the first one to your last question, which is why do business owners pay attention to their business and not their personal finances? And I think that too often, especially with women, but too often, especially small business owners, we have money tied in with we have our business tied in with our self-confidence. So we maybe don't have a core of self-confidence. We go out into business and we sort of think we're lucky if 1 or 2 or 10 people do business with us. And as soon as our business level reaches what our mental thought was that it could reach, we don't try anymore. Because it's like, wow, I can't believe how these people are actually doing business with me. We're like surprised, right? And so those kinds of thoughts where you do have your self-confidence intertwined with your business and your money can be really limiting if you don't expose those to the light of day, whether that be, in a coaching environment or a mastermind environment, just to like say it out loud. Like, wow, I'm making $75,000 a year in revenue and I'm paying myself $25,000, but I just really can't see. I don't think there's anybody else on the planet who would do business with me. And, a supportive mastermind would say to you, that's a ridiculous limiting belief. But until you say it out loud, it like lives for you like it's true. And then the second thing It's like relationships, romantic relationships, especially, right? In the very beginning, you're getting to know the person and you're taking it slow, but you know intuitively that in a romantic relationship that has fodder for being a good, constructive, loving relationship built on trust, there aren't going to be dysfunctional things happening in the beginning of the relationship. There's not going to be lying, cheating, stealing, hiding, right? Those things are either present or they're not. And so, yes, you're being more cohesive and learning about that person, so it may not have the intimacy or time commitment that it could in the future, but it has those foundations. And I would apply that to your business, that if your business isn't paying you, you have a dysfunctional business.
That's right.
So and I start with people as small as we can. I do think it's important, for example, that you put yourself on payroll for various tax and social security reasons that are technical but not really important. But moreover, it's the energy, the commitment to putting yourself on payroll. And if it has to be that you're just making consistent draws out of the business account into your personal account, that's fine too. But the point is to set yourself up with a consistent base in your personal accounts, because most business owners start and they take whatever they need out of their business account when they need it for personal expenses. But it's like, I don't know, I go back to the romantic relationship comparison, right? You have, if you're going to have a supportive relationship, that person's there for you in equal amounts during the work week and on the weekends, and introducing you to friends. And it's not a take from me when you need from me kind of a relationship. It becomes a partnership, right? You should be building a partnership with your business. And yes, every business has a ramp-up period. Every business needs startup capital. Some people get investor money to do that, or some people use their credit cards, or take loans from their 401ks. But ultimately, you have to get your business out of that startup period. You have to, or else you're a slave to this thing that's consuming both your time and your money. There's no end to that, and in most cases, it just takes tweaks in the business. Like, I'm not saying, I don't want the communication to anyone who's listening to be, oh, Hilary thinks I should, stop running my business. No, I think you should consciously design your business.
Right, absolutely. I can think back to the time that I was first turned on to the concept of paying yourself first as a priority. And I've not been shy about it. Profit first, that reading that book and changing that thought process was literally like a light that switched on for me. And to just keep going with your analogy of a relationship is what happens when your love tank is empty. That's a term we use in my family. It's like, What happened? Did your love tank end? Like when you need more hugs and cuddles and whatever. So what happens when your passion, or you have a really hard day or week, or a launch fails, and you're like, and my business doesn't freaking pay me? Like, that could be the thing that says, this isn't filling up my love tank anymore, and you're out. And that would be horrible to go out of business because you didn't prioritize your needs, which is providing for yourself or your family through a paycheck, right?
It is. And when you prioritize paying yourself, you start to look at your business from a different viewpoint. So to complement what you just said, I think if you're not thinking about paying yourself, you may miss opportunities. You may not see certain roads that you could take or product lines that you could develop because you're not, you have, to use a term that I think is fairly ubiquitous, you have an upper limit problem. You're only trying to make $75,000 a year versus what you really need is 125. Whatever that number is for you. When you don't develop the emotional demand from your business, no, you will pay me this amount every year, or ultimately I'm going to stop doing this. I'll channel my energy somewhere more profitable, right? That's a shift in self-thought and what you're willing to accept from the universe. It's a big deal. I mean, just as an example, at the beginning of the pandemic, my personal and house, my business income dropped about 35% almost immediately, because part of what I do is tied to the stock market. And so, I was able to say to my team, look, I have enough money. Your jobs are not at risk. But the conversation I had with my husband is, okay, so if the income stays at this level and we said to each other 2 years, I would need to make other arrangements. Like, I'm not interested in working for that amount because, of course, as the business owner, when the revenue comes down, I'm the one who takes the pay cut, right?
Right.
And so and just to know that and to say, okay, so I'll do this for 2 years and then we'll have another conversation. But, I know that I'm going to go ahead and continue to earn high wages. It just may not be here.
Right. Okay. This is so good. So I actually have goosebumps, and there was dots connected that I'm for myself just now. So when someone tells me that there is not enough time to do something, like they're maxed out, they're working 6 days a week, 7 days a week, or just far more hours than they want to, because they don't think it's possible to pull back their time, they're believing that this is the way it needs to be. They've normalized that. They don't ask different questions. And so by paying yourself and having that, like, I make X, and by this date, I'm giving myself a raise to make this, until you say that and commit to it, you're not asking different questions to say, so now how is my business going to create that? It's the other way, is you're like, well, when the business creates the money, then I'll see what I can pull out. It's being reactive versus the proactive, asking different questions, which is what you were saying of now you're saying what new product line, what new offering, what new price point, because the goal is that my business makes X so that it can pay me X or Y.
Exactly. It's just a massively different way to view the world. The psychologists and speaker trainers say you shouldn't use sports metaphors with female audiences, but I know you have a co-ed audience, so I'll talk about baseball. And I think about it, like, I often think to myself this, Hilary, am I standing at home plate swinging at pitches, or am I standing on the pitcher's mound throwing the ball? And as a business owner, you want to be the one throwing the ball, right? And so if you're just taking what your business naturally produced, you're just swinging at pitches. It's just like, okay, it's coming in, I'm swinging. It's coming in, I'm swinging. You're not designing anything. But to say you don't have enough time, and I know it sounds trite until you see it, because you've probably heard this before, but it's like, you have the same amount of time everybody on the planet has. Nobody gets extra time. Right?
Yep.
We all have 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week. So how come some people produce exponentially more? It's what they do with their time.
That's right. And how they've prioritized what is a priority, because they're not getting everything done. They're just being very selective with what they're investing their time in that gives them a bigger return. So it seems like they're doing more when in fact they're probably doing it on less time than you're grinding it out. So that's all the time analogy. I assume I'm going to throw this ball at you and say, how does that apply to our money? Like, how do we make our money go further, and how do we be smart with it? So if we've gotten past stage one that says, okay, we're not only committed to taking a paycheck, we're asking different questions, we're creating a business model that can support that. There are some people that are like, yeah, I take a paycheck and then I just sit on the money because I don't know what to do with it next. Like, what am I supposed to do with this money that my business is paying me? What happens next for people that are in that situation?
Let me just back up one step. I gave a TEDx talk about, the title of the talk was called The Surprising Power of Language to Make You Rich. And it's a catchy title, but it ultimately is about how the scripts that we say to ourselves and other people are foundational and contextual for us when it comes to money. And one of the most common ones is there's never enough money. So if you find yourself saying things like money doesn't grow on trees, or I can't afford that, or literally, there's never enough money. This is a limiting belief that's identifiable. It's fairly simple. Your money operating system, that's a term I trademarked. Your money operating system is the belief that guides you when it comes to money. So you can view your money results as symptoms of the money operating system. So let me just say that to those of you who are listening and you're thinking, yeah, okay, but here I am 5 years in making $50,000 a year. What do you want me to do? Like, I don't know what to do. And I think starting with understanding and isolating your money scripts that's absolutely where I start with everyone I coach. Okay.
Yeah.
It can be really powerful when you see, oh, I've been relating to this like it's capital T true. And it's actually just something I made up when I was 8 years old and my mom wouldn't give me enough lunch money, right?
Yes.
It's just like, and then we forgot that we made it up. Okay. So
hold on. I don't want to cut you off, but literally I'm a parent. You're a parent, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm aware of this, and it takes so much to unravel it and be aware of it in your own world. But then my son asks for allowance and I'm like, you need to work hard for that. I'm not just giving you that. And I'm like, well, no, that's a belief I have that I have to work really hard on my business. And I was like, oh, that came out like diarrhea. Thank you for showing that operating system truth that I was just living with. Like, as I say it to my son, I'm like I pull it back. I'm like, no, actually, I don't want to speak that into you. And then I'm like, where did that come from? I do work really hard in my business. Well, that's not by accident that I think I have to work really hard to, hit X dollars. And it's all the belief, right?
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, but I just wanted to show like a real example in my own life that I hear it.
I know. And my daughter's 4, so we're not really talking about money yet. But of course, I'm the money coach, right? So I think I have to hold myself to a really high standard. I have to be really careful what I say. She said something to me like, "What is this? What is money?" And I said, "Oh, wow, this is my big stage opportunity." I don't even know what I said, but I thought, this is it. Make it or break it as a parent here. And that's a perfect example of a limiting belief. It's a popular one, Amber. I mean, there are lots of people who think I have to work hard for money. And, I have a strong work ethic, and I certainly have worked hard for money. And that certainly was a symbiotic belief that I had. And I can't say that I've totally superseded it, transcended it. There are seasons in my business. Like I happen to be working really hard right now, but there are times when I let myself take time off too. And I notice, like, I think, oh, my team is going to think I'm shirking and lazy. It's like, oh, well, what's that? What's that belief? Where'd that come from?
I am so glad you shared that. I hear that from my clients a lot. When I say, do you have permission to take a Friday off or have a Friday off? And the first response often always is like, well, but my team is still working. What are they going to think? And as their coach, I'm like, what are they going to think? They weren't there when you've been working 7 days a week for the last 3 years. I think you can take a Friday off, but it's that belief of what are they going to think? It's the team. Totally.
Yeah. It's some of this stuff is deep seated.
Right.
So your question was, what happens with, how do we design or think about our money? Okay. So, first of all, you do need to know what kind of business you're running. So for example, you and me, Amber, we run professional services businesses, and that means we have the opportunity to work one-on-one with clients. One-on-one work is expensive, just like lawyers and doctors. So a lot of good profit can be made in the one-on-one client relationship where you're literally impacting an aspect of their life that's going to improve their life forever. And I do that in my way. You do that in your way. My business also happens to be sellable. So because I have created on the financial planning side a continuing stream, a recurring stream of income, I can actually sell my business for a particular multiple of revenue. So now I know that and I'm planning for that. But let's say, for example, let me take someone we might all know. Let's just take Amy Porterfield. I just pulled that out of thin air. Okay. So she's a marketing expert and I listen to her podcast off and on. But everything she does is really tied to her celebrity, her name, right? So she's a personality brand. She's not necessarily creating systems and tools that are going to live on past her tenure in the business. For example, the iPod, right? When you buy an iPod, you don't buy it because of the CEO of Apple. You buy it because you want the iPod. I don't know. I know the iPod isn't out anymore, so it's the iPhone now. Thank you. But if Amy Porterfield stops working, she's probably not going to she probably can't sell her business. She has courses that are online, but you need Amy Porterfield to sell those courses, right? So Amy Porterfield has to plan to make a high income while she's working. She probably is not going to sell her business versus a product company. So the entire purpose of a product company, I just brought up Apple, is to sell the business to a larger company. So build a product, bring it to market, and get a bigger business that has deep pockets interested in your product so that they sell your product, which probably doesn't have your face on it, right? Whether it's a widget or a stroller or whatever it is, it has nothing to do with you, the business owner. And then if you're good at that, you can do that multiple times. And so if that's the case, then you can afford to take a low salary while you're building that business because you have the prospect of a really big, what we call exit or payoff in the future. So you have to know what kind of business you're running, okay? And you have to get really serious about your aspirations for your financial health and well-being. So if you're going to give up your life and your time, time is the only resource you can't get back, right? So if you're going to give up your time for 5, 10, 15, 20 years and miss out on potentially, your children's part of your children's growing years, or put yourself in a position where you have a leadership role in the household. Like, yes, I work and I don't spend time with my daughter all the time. We have a nanny, but I take it on that she's going to be mentored by a powerful woman, right? That's what I'm interested in giving my life for. So you really have to decide, this business is either going to produce financial independence for me or I'm out. This is like, yes, if we're dating, you have to tell me the truth and return my phone calls or I'm out.
That's right.
You have to have boundaries from the beginning. And when I started my business, my husband and I decided I would not take a salary for 2 years. And I actually started paying myself after about 18 months. So it went well, but it was all by design. And we had enough capital to do that with. And we managed our personal cash flow to it. So anyway, you need to have a strategic plan in mind. And for those of you who are serial entrepreneurs, maybe you sell business after business after business, this can be very, very lucrative, okay? But then you also need to realize, because your business is a separate entity from you, that if you don't pull money out of your business and put it in your personal accounts, you've got nothing. Because if something happens to that business, the pandemic or the stock market crash or whatever it may be, you have not benefited personally. So all that can go away, right?
Yeah.
So getting committed to having that paycheck that you draw from your business be big enough to support your everyday life, your vacations, your next car, but also be building assets so that you are moving towards financial peace of mind and freedom. And that is when you can stop working. When you have enough assets built up in your personal life that you can produce income from those assets, you can work less or not work as you choose. That's why people call it financial independence. You are independent, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a big advocate for that. And I hope that answers your question. Did that answer your question?
Absolutely. No, it's so good. And then as you ended about the financial independence, something that my husband and I share together is like, having money gives you choices. Like, now you get to choose to hire yourself in your business instead of feeling like you have to be in your business. That mindset shift, to tie this to productivity, is night and day. When you think you're doing something you want to do versus you have to do, think about how you show up differently in your business.
Exactly.
It's huge. Okay, so many good points here. Alrighty, so with regards to financial independence and having your business serve you, and we're talking about the thoughts and the scripts and things, how often do you hear things like, I feel guilty that I make all this money. Like, my parents didn't make this money. I've never seen this much money in my life. And now my business is doing well. Like, there's guilt around making money when it wasn't generational, and maybe even their peers. Like, for me, it was when I was hiring a nanny and getting help in the home and all those sorts of things. And then I'd go to a barbecue and people would talk to me and I would feel guilty to say, oh, we just hired a new nanny and this person came and we got this help. That's a long-winded question to say, how do you handle when you're jumping up in revenue and income, but there's guilt around it because your social circle isn't the same place?
Yeah. So just like, I shared earlier that part of who I am as a wealth coach is that I've been there, that I had like multiple 6 figures of debt. I went into arrears paying my creditors. I had a condo foreclosed on. I had a 400 FICO score for a while. And I pulled myself out of that by figuring this out. And that becomes what I teach from. And it becomes some of my credibility. So if I were to stand up on an ivory tower and say to you, spend less than you make, that would be an irritating message. But because I've been in the trenches, people give me credibility, and there are lots of people who teach from a lesson learned. So there is a world-renowned book in my industry called The 7 Stages of Money Maturity. And what you just described, that pain, is the second stage. So the good news for you who are feeling guilty. For a lot of people, they spend a lot of time and a lot of pain when they realize that there's perpetual inequity in the world, that no matter what, there will always be people who can't pay their bills. There will always be people who are exponentially richer than you. I mean, unless you're Jeff Bezos, right? That there's persistent inequity in this world, and there will never be equality of outcome. And this is very painful for some people. Or, for example, let's talk about someone who racks up credit card debt until their credit cards are maxed out, and then maybe daddy pays off the credit cards for them, right? There are people out there who get financially taken care of by their parents for a long time. So they're in pain when the credit cards are maxed out, and then daddy pays it off and they feel, relieved. Okay. But then it happens again. So they paying back and forth between innocence and pain. These are the first two stages of money maturity. If you can stick with it and get yourself on a good financial plan, a lot of in life, sometimes you don't have to go through the eye of the needle, right? Sometimes you don't have to really take that guilt and pain on like it's your baby and sort of push through it or find a resolution to it. You will find that if you do the right things with money and get yourself on a plan that works for you and your financial partner and your family, that it will just dissipate. Those kinds of feelings just go away. So the step after pain in the stages of money maturity is awareness. And you move into this place where you just feel differently about it. You have a confidence about it. You have a compassion for the family that raised you, but you don't feel guilty about the money that you're paying yourself. You feel like, well, I could loan this to them, or I could do other charitable community efforts, but this is my life. This is my path, and I'm proud of where I am. And so I would say the fix to what you just described is just keep doing the right things. Keep building wealth. Focus on building your personal net worth. And I think you will find the evidence I have and the learnings I have say that those kinds of things won't limit you forever.
Yeah. I love that, because what you tied that together with that I like to speak to is that when you are making more money, now you get to choose what your money is doing. And so if you have these passions for a charity or your church or your community, like you're getting that opportunity. And how does that feel? Like to focus on the good things you can do with it instead of thinking that again, negative. That's all those money beliefs. Like I'm talking to you, but there's just so many of them. And what's interesting is as I'm hearing this, I just realized how often I hear these in my own coaching sessions around time, that there's sabotaging your time and sabotaging your business because there's guilt around money made or money not made. It's all connected. That's so funny. We were talking about what could we have you on here for? And I'm like, no, they need to hear your messaging. And now I'm having all these ahas of so many connections between the money mindsets and then the time mindsets and how they sabotage each other back and forth.
It is, because remember we said that your business is a hungry monster that eats time and money. So there's a trade-off there, right? And so you're going to hear some of the same issues with time and money. And I myself get there. Sometimes I look at my calendar for the week and I think, I'm never going to get it all done. And then I have to have a little mini counseling session with myself. It's like, no, everyone has the same amount of time. And if there's something on that calendar that you're not committed to doing, you tell your team they're doing it or it's not happening. So I have compassion for that. But if you as the business owner are not masterminding your time and your money, it's going to happen to you, right?
Yes.
That's the effect of it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So then if we are not being proactive and the money is, say, compiling, we're doing great in business, we've got our head down, we've got some coaching around business, we're making good moves. Now we got this money accumulating and we're like, okay, I think we should pay ourselves. We pay ourselves. What does that look like? And this is for me too, is like, what does that look like to create those assets that then work for you? That's what you were speaking of, is like, that's the next layer. Tell me more.
Yeah. So this is where it gets into the technicals of financial planning. You want to figure out what kind of account you should be saving in. So Congress has given you some tax deferrals and tax benefits for saving in particular ways. For a lot of business owners, you start with a SEP IRA. SEP stands for Simplified Employee Pension. A lot of people think it stands for self-employed pension, but it's not. It's simplified employee pension. And, it starts to sound like alphabet soup and it's kind of boring. It could be an IRA or a 401k or a Roth IRA. And that's where you probably need you either need some technical knowledge, like, for most of you, what kind of account you should save in. You can find that information on the internet. But as soon as the assets start to build up and you really need someone to be your chief financial officer, that's where a financial advisor can step in. And, it goes back to that old adage. I mean, I never say this to people I coach because, first of all, you don't hire a wealth coach if you started saving when you were 19 years old. You just don't, right? So there's the quote unquote millionaire next door who's saved 10% of their paycheck since they were 19 years old and they've never looked at that savings. It just piles up and it grows and grows and grows and it grows exponentially. When you invest in the stock market, if you have a profitable investment strategy, your money doesn't go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. It goes from 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32. So it grows exponentially, it mushrooms. And so you hit 40, 45 years old and you've got, maybe 7 figures of savings. And at that point, so again, going back, I'm going to take a stab and say many of you who are listening to this aren't in that situation. I was not in that situation. Many of the people I work with are not in that situation. Yes, if everyone did what Dave Ramsey says, that's how it would go. But surprise, surprise, our brains are not fully formed until we're like 35. So you as a business owner have the opportunity to put large sums of money away. And there really is no magic to it. It does take consistency and persistence, but any amount of money can pay you a stream of income. So your business is paying you a stream of income. Your personal net worth, your savings can also pay you a stream of income. And so that's what I do on the financial planning side is I take my clients' savings and I turn it into retirement or financial independence income for them. And then, as long as you don't overspend your savings, you can live forever and work if and when you choose. And, the youngest retiree I work for is in her early 40s. So it does happen.
That's so awesome. So This is what I love is that, you keep referring to this side of your business and this side. And as the person that is your friend and your client is that you have put such an importance in not just like, okay, give me your money and I'm going to go invest it over here because I know better. You really want to empower. And for those that want to know and understand and unravel the stories, there's that side of your business too that you're really empowering and supporting. Yeah. And for me, that created such a safe space because I do, and I am working through, but because I work hard for my money, holding your money to where I had to find someone I trusted. And then you give them the money and you're like, I hope they're doing something good with it. But with you, outside of the friendship, it was like, well, how much do you want to know? That's actually something you say to me all the time. You're like, well, how much do you want to know? And then you're testing me, do I go deep? Do I give her the alphabet or do I give her the other version of it? And I assume that with my response, you are tailoring just enough for me to feel educated, to make a better decision for myself. And then when I'm ready to take that next step, right?
I hope so. That's my intention. We have a section of my wealth coaching course. It's called the Wealth Multiplier course, called the alphabet soup of account types. And I never want my voice to be associated with anything boring. So I made my team record that module. I'm sensitive to that, if I could formulate my own prescription medications in my bathroom, I would do that, but I can't. So I go to the store and I buy the Tylenol in the bottle that somebody else formulated and put together in a pill for me. And investments can be like that, right? There's a lot of, Frank, some of what I do is really boring when it comes out, in words. So I try to use metaphors and stories wherever I can, but I'm an independent advisor. So I'm not associated with any bank, brokerage, or financial institution. And what that means is I have the world of investment solutions at my fingertips. There's no sales manager in the office next to me telling me what I have to sell. And I don't earn any commissions. My clients never pay commissions. So we're totally independent from what kind of investments you use. I've literally picked the solution that I think is the best and cheapest and most profitable in the world. And if there was a better one, I would move. I would move my money, all my clients' money. My mom's a client. I would move her money, right? So I sleep really well at night and I have a very compelling story to tell about the investments. And if you just trust me and you don't want to know about it, then I'm not going to force it on you.
Right. Well, and I think that everyone's ready at a different time too to hear more of the story. And so partnering with somebody that you trust and is making the best decisions. But I would say too, we didn't talk about this, but that you know how to ask the right questions to find out like, what are your motivators? Like, what are your goals? Deep questions that I would assume allow you to make different decisions on where you're investing money for your clients, right? Like it's the whole person. Yeah.
I mean, I say to people, look, I consider it my job to ask enough questions so that I'm doing for you what you would do for you if you knew what I know. Like I'm supposed to be your right arm, right?
Yeah.
You're the chief executive officer of your financial life. I'm just the CFO. So it's my job to tell you what it's going to take to get there. You tell me where we're going and I'll take that on. That's my goal with you. And I'm going to say, okay, Amber, it's going to take X, Y, and Z to get there. And then my job is to make that happen on the investment side. And so we take pride in building close relationships with clients. And, just as an example, we have a no complaints about anybody policy in the business. So I told my team, I'll never complain about you to someone that isn't you. If I have a complaint about you, I will bring it to you. And I expect and ask the same from you. And we also have a no complaints about clients policy. Nobody ever says anything, even remotely complaining about a client. And I'm proud of that. It creates a particular dynamic and environment. And I think of my clients as family. So anyway, thanks for bringing that up.
I love that. Well, I mean, we get to go deeper than a normal podcast interview because we are close, but I also have that unique, experience of, honestly, I was really early on my money journey when we became friends.
Yeah.
And I could have easily got intimidated. And this is just being in all honesty. And instead I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky to have somebody that I'm friends with that can teach me and come alongside in an area that I'm not. It's not my area of expertise. But we find that true in our businesses. You're not doing your own legal. You're not doing your own taxes. You shouldn't be doing your own financials. Most often we're outsourcing high-end marketing. That's not unless you're in the business of marketing, you need someone that's their hat. That's what they know. That's what they can do for you. Mm-hmm. And I think this is very, very similar. So if I had to connect the dots for the audience here, I think it's that you can help them with the psychology, which I love. And I think you have something special for them that they can take some next steps. Because if you're over here investing, you're kind of bottlenecked if we're over here in our businesses sabotaging ourselves and not paying ourselves. So we have work to do over here in our businesses. And then you can then partner and make it go further in essence, correct?
That is the idea. Yes. So, I even have a coach who sends me workouts in my phone. I've outsourced my physical fitness routine. So I like to outsource anything I don't feel I'm good at or any area of my life where I have really big goals. Right?
Yes.
So for your audience, I did want to invite them to take part in a free training that I'm offering. Is that okay?
Yes, please do so.
Great. So now this training, you should know it is only available until October 9th. So don't delay. And what it is a training totally free on demand. I personally can't stand webinars that make me sign up for one of 3 times. I'm inevitably not available at that time. And I said, let me watch it when I want to watch it. So that's what I'm doing for you. It's called 8 Ways Business Owners Can Transform Revenue into Personal Wealth. So we're going to really extend and develop on the conversations, Amber, that you and I had today. We are going to be really actionable. We're going to talk about the 3 financial mistakes I see most business owners making and the 4 most profitable actions that you can put into a routine so that you're doing them on a daily basis and not dropping them out. And then I'm going to invite them to make a really, really powerful commitment to themselves and their business. So it's going to be really, I'm going to share more about my story. And we're going to get really specific and actionable. And if you want to take part in that training, just check it out at hilaryhendershott.com/Amber.
Oh my gosh. Well, I will be there too, because I definitely want to hear it all. And I got to hear what that program was about. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, you've got to share that with my audience. You know, you're here listening because you want to make improvements with your business and your time. And I think Hilary hit it home when she said, and pay yourself, create assets so that your business can really serve you in the long term. You know, my husband got a job where he's got, you know, retirement and pension and all of that stuff. And so we're able to plan consistently for what that future looks like. And up until a few years ago, I didn't feel like my business could do that. I didn't feel like I knew that I could be equal contributor to what our future looked like because of the ups and downs that inevitably businesses have. And so with some mindset change, script change, investment changes, I'm literally excited. In fact, when I was driving back from Lake Tahoe from being on vacation with you, that's what my husband and I were talking about. We were talking about like, how early can he retire? When is it that I can, you know, support the family and be flexible with my time and we move out of state? Like, those are conversations I wasn't having a few years ago. But thank you for like opening that up, showing what's possible, and just empowering me to be able to be more proactive versus reactive with my own financials in my business and life. Hilary.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm so excited to hear that. I tell people I'm the Joan of Arc of people building wealth. I'm like, let's all have enough money. And, you know, I've studied every aspect of the wealth building process. And so that's really what I teach and what I want to share with people.
Thank you so much for being here, Hilary. And I will link out to everything in the show notes should you need that.
Love it. Thanks.
I have loved having you listen to this episode of Productivity Straight Talk, and I sure hope you found my conversation with Hilary to be incredibly valuable and insightful. No change, no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. So based on my conversation with Hilary, what came up for you? Do you have money mindset blocks? Do you have strategy that is missing that you need to take yourself, your business, and your finances to the next level? If that's the case, then I would encourage you to take up Hilary on her invitation to join her inside her free training. And again, the link will be in the show notes wherever you're listening to this episode, or you can go to hilaryhendershott.com/Amber. Be sure to head on over and check out my signature Time Management Made Simple program. You can check it out and learn more by going to amberdelagarza.com/time. If you're a first-time listener, or perhaps you're a long-time listener but haven't yet subscribed, I'll ask that you subscribe wherever you're listening to this episode if you found today's episode valuable. I want to send a special thank you out to Anna Osborne, who left me a review and said, "Love this podcast. I'm such a huge fan of Amber and her work. She is an amazing straight talker and her wisdom and insight is spot on. Thank you for such great content that reaches far into my business." Thank you so much for taking the time to leave a review and share those kind words, and also letting others know about Productivity Straight Talk. So that's my straight talk for you today. Until next time, have a productive week.